Hello travellers, I'm Sam Clark and I'm the co-founder of Experience Travel Group. This is Experience Travel Talks, a new podcast series where we try and bring you a little bit of the magic that we try and bring to our holidays. We're all about that sense of adventure, that kind of immersion, discovering for yourself a destination and destination stories. This week I've been thinking a little bit about how often it's the location that shapes the experience over time. The best travel experiences are kind of organic. They're kind of, unexpected, but also, very much brought to you by the place where there's that real sense of place, a sense where you couldn't be anywhere else in the world. We're here at Chambal Safari Lodge. Now, Chambal is a small river in India, or by Indian terms at least, it's a small river. On the border of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, and it was known traditionally as bandit country. So there were some quite famous bandits in this area. So it's very much a borderland, it's very much a marginal land. It's an hour and a half drive, not even, from Agra, from Taj Mahal, one of the world's most iconic tourist sites, and a major tourist honeypot. But you wouldn't know it once you get to Chambal. It is so far off the beaten track. It's a peaceful destination. Chambal River itself is a wide and slowly meandering river, which is quite amazing wildlife. It's got crocodiles, it's got river dolphins, it's got incredible bird life. Anu and Ram inherited the property, and it's been in Ram's family for generations, but it was completely run down when they took it over. And going in there now, it's not an over-the-top place. It's very low-key, but beautifully furnished and you're beautifully looked after, but it's really allowing the nature of the place to come to the fore. So I spoke to Anu, she has a wry sense of humour, and she talked to me about how Chambal came to be, how it developed kind of organically, how it was shaped by the area, by the location. And she talks about what she learned and what the intention was for the guest experience, and how that's ended up and what she's learned. She knows her travel as well, and she gives a few good tips on visiting India too at the end. We're here at Chambal Safari Park with Anu, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what inspired her, what this sort of place is, what the experience is here, and how that came to be. Hello, Anu. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello, Sam. Well, how this started was a bit of we were working in Delhi, both of us, my husband and I, expecting our first and only child, and decided we didn't like the work we were doing. I was with UNESCO, my husband was an engineer, just fed up, didn't like cities, and we took a little 3-month-old baby, moody, hormone-driven parents, and sleepless parents rather, and arrived here because we just inherited this property. It was derelict, it was completely derelict. I had no running water, no electricity. I had no clue what it would cost to raise a child, or what diapers cost even. I had about 15,000 savings in the bank, and we landed up here, and we had this idea that we would have this amazing place up and running within a year. And that's really what drove it, the desire to be outdoors, and to share Chambal, because I fell in love with Chambal. I first visited in '96, and I just loved the whole terrain, the way the river just was so natural, and the fact that so few people cared about it was what bothered me. And but I can't claim I had some grand vision. I really didn't. I was just bumbling along, and things happened, and made a lot of mistakes. A lot of times I chaffed at the fact that I didn't have enough money to do things the way I wanted to do them. But now I feel I'm glad it was like that, because all of this was organic. Nothing was ever so huge that it couldn't be undone, and it couldn't be thought through at a later point. And it grew with me. I changed as an individual. I'm not the same person I was 24 years ago. So it's evolved, It's changed. Um, and it reflects who we are, which is people who are just relaxed and laid back and don't take life too seriously. Uh, Pretend we're very serious and very earnest people, but at the heart of it, just having a good time and enjoying the process. So that's really what this place is about. I mean, it's just a relaxed, happy place where we've let so much acreage grow wild that it's created this little micro environment. You got birds and the little small mammals running around, and you wake up to the nilgai out of your bathroom window, and the peacocks, and they're sometimes knocking on your windows, imagining the reflection is another peacock or something. Just those little joys, and it's fun sharing it with people who come to India imagining that it is just the Taj Mahal or it's just the poverty, or there's very few people who really get that there's an India beyond the cities, and that's where the mass of people actually live, and their lives are very different.
Mm.
And there's all these little unexplored gems all around. I'm still discovering so much around here.
So tell us about Chambal. It's obviously an hour and a half from Agra, Taj Mahal, one of the most famous, iconic tourist sites in the world, yet not too many tourists have come here, and obviously it was a big inspiration for you in setting up a place.
I think its reputation is because it's considered an unholy river in mythology. It's always been associated, it's referred to as rebel country. It's the Baghi, the land of the Baghi, which is a rebel. So people have always associated it with a lawless sort of uncontrolled terrain, which has really worked in its favor because the river is pristine. We've got abundant wildlife, unlike our holy rivers, which are polluted beyond redemption. We initially thought that being close to Agra would be great because we would be able to get the tourist hordes in. But as you go along, you realize that a pristine place like this needs to have limited numbers. It can't be overrun with coachloads of tourists. The very thing that makes it special would be destroyed. And also it's a fragile ecosystem. So the connectivity, yes, helps, but it isn't the kind of place that everybody wants to come to. It is an individual who is interested in wildlife, in nature, in wanting to explore beyond the tourist brochure. And is also looking for the experiences, the spontaneous. I mean, I sometimes so regret the spontaneity that used to be in travel. The backpacking kind of spontaneity where you could stop somewhere for a cup of tea, or you could see someone and just strike up a conversation. That's the kind of things you could do in not just here, but several other places in India, which is what I think makes Chambal special.
And tell us about those experiences.
Well, we've got a range of them that we've developed over the years. I mean, obviously the main one is the wildlife experience on the river Chambal. So we've got the gharials, the marsh crocs, and river dolphins, and over 300 species of birds. And it's what, again, I find the feedback I've always received from people is, even if you're not interested in the wildlife, the fact that you're in India, in a busy country, you just come from Agra or Jaipur or somewhere, and you suddenly land up on a river, the only boat there, there's no one for miles around, and the stunning terrain, and you're just drifting along, there's not a soul in sight. I mean, that's a special thing in a country like India, where the noise can get on your nerves. You can't imagine a spot so quiet, really. So, I mean, that I feel is still one of my personal favorites. But beyond that, we've got the Bhuteshwar Temple, which is again a very timeless little spot. So on the bend of the Yamuna, there's some 40 odd temples still standing, pearly white things. really unpretentious. How possibly the religion really evolved, and for these lovely cards and all manner of people coming and going, and I feel it's almost like a staging post between what how Hinduism evolved and what Varanasi possibly was when it started out life before it became this grand old dame. So I like that contrast, and then it's got its animal fair, which is amongst the largest. And we've discovered that the old imperial road passed through it, which is possibly why the animal fair came up with the horses and the cattle being traded there, camels and donkeys as well. Um, Beyond that, we've got the Holipura Heritage Village. It's a Chaturvedi village. This is a community that claims descent from Alexander's Greek army. Um, they have several traditions that seem linked to ancient Greece. So it's right here. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Yes.
What traditions?
For instance, the fish motif. They are part of the Brahminical order now. So as Brahmins, especially in this part of the country, they are strict vegetarians. Yet no religious ceremony is complete without a fish being part of it, or which in a traditional Brahmin household would be taboo. The Some of the ornaments are shaped like fish. They take pride in the fact that they are taller than the average Indian. They have those hooked Greek noses. They tend to have green or blue eyes, very light skin, marry only between themselves, which is a bit strange. But they and several other little things that, in terms of certain traditional items of clothing, the toga-like items, which they're beginning to lose those now because there is this drive towards the greater Hindu fold. But the older generation will still talk about how they're actually Greek and probably tell you things about that. Some of their food traditions also. So, yeah.
You say that you didn't, there was no grand vision. Was there an intention behind what you and Ram created at the start, or?
The intention was definitely that this set up a tourism venture. It had to be community based. Those were the two things we were clear about. We wanted to get guests over. We wanted to try and let people experience this part of India. We didn't, I mean, they've become buzzwords now, sustainability, responsible tourism. But that's what we were doing even back then. We didn't quite have the language for it because we were very certain that we wanted to do, we didn't want to go the mass tourism route. We did not want to set up a 5-star hotel with marble floors and bathtubs and intercom and 52-inch television screens. So we were fairly clear about that, and a lot of times people didn't get it. A lot of the DMCs who would visit didn't get it, which is why I started coming and visiting the companies in England, so that I could find that audience that would understand what I was trying to do here. And so that was, I would say, was the only vision. And the second one was about protecting Chambal because it was under threat from rampant sand mining. It was a much neglected sanctuary. It had been a great success with the Karyal project that helped revive the population, which had been decimated. But at the same time, it had sort of fallen off the map once the scientists left. And with the sand mining, the movement in the river, with the loss of sand, the loss of the islands, it meant that the nesting sites were disappearing. And it would have just become a footnote, another sanctuary that couldn't survive because of whatever reason. Coming here, it does make me feel very happy that we were able to help save this part of the river. And then being early movers allowed us to help set the ground rules so that there is a management plan in place. There can never be more than X number of tourism units or boats on the river. Spots have been identified where tourism can take place, and they're far enough apart not to disturb the wildlife. So I'd say those are the only two things I had a vision about. Everything else was just, okay, let's try this. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try something else. So,
Is there something, if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what advice would you give them?
patience. And give it to me now.
You've learned patience now.
Oh, I've learned patience. I've learned not to cry when, I think I was too much of a perfectionist. And also, I've learned not to try to bend everything to my way. The land especially. The day I gave in to this land, I became a happier person. And I think this is going to sound really wishy-washy, but it's almost like the land accepted me at that point, because it was like the day I said, no, I'll let that tree grow it where it wants to. I'm not going to insist on it listening to me, and it's got to be here. It's got to go straight. The day I did that, everything just sort of fell into place, and everything sort of seems a happier place. I'm a happy person, I think. I'm not waking up stressed in the morning trying to sort things out. I'm just yielding to the way nature wants me to be.
That makes total sense. And
Does it?
Since Anu has a unique perspective as someone who lives in rural India and has spent a lot of time living in the UK, I wondered what tips she had for first-time visitors to India.
It's probably going to sound so cliched, but just having an open mind helps. Just coming in, it's difficult because India is so much in the news. Anyone traveling to India is always aware of the country and its many concerns that they might have about traveling here for the first time. But just having an open mind really helps, because it's always the little experiences that you haven't factored in that make for the holiday. The interactions that you didn't think you would have, and just looking beyond what the guides are showing you, which is peeping behind the monument, possibly talking to the family that's sitting on a bench close to you. Indians are very friendly, very curious by nature. You probably realize that when you take a train ride, everybody in that compartment will be talking to everybody else and sharing food and wanting to know your good name and your family, your children, your salary. So if you just have that open mind, and if you just come in with the thought that I want to take something beyond what the brochure is talking about, you will find that you go back enriched, happier. It is an assault on the senses. I'm not going to pretend it isn't. It is a sensory overload. There's just so much you will see and experience that it is. And I think it also helps to have little gaps in the program, where you just have some downtime, a day here and a day there. That really helps decompress and take in what you just experienced and move on for the next assault.
that is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chambal for me was it was extraordinary. It's so close to Agra, it's so close to the Taj Mahal, yet just feels like another world. You're privileged enough to see a corner of India that most would miss, and it's a fascinating corner. It's beautiful from the wildlife point of view, with the ghats, with the temples, and then Chambal itself is just so peaceful, so quiet, so immersive in terms of the nature and wildlife. It really is just fantastic, and the food just has to be tasted to be believed. If you've enjoyed what you've heard and you'd like to discover more about what makes travel special, then come back and listen to some more of the series. I've been Sam Clark, this has been Experience Travel Talks, and I will see you next time.